For today's video, we are going to... Nalulog! Hello guys, I am Hansilos Reyes and welcome to my channel. Before I start, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell para updated kayo sa aking every upload. Today's video, we are going to have a vlog aral. This is my... For today's video, we are going to have a vlog aral. And this is not my first time to do this because I have my Hansis tutorial in my YouTube channel, so you can check it out. For this video, we are going to discuss a literature in pre-colonial era. So okay, before we start a lesson, and it is very usual, we have an objectives to meet. And these objectives are: identify the impact of pre-colonial era to the growth and development of Philippine literature, and number 2, identify the different literary forms under pre-colonial era. The diversity and richness of Philippine literature evolved side by side with the country's history, and this can best be appreciated in the context of the country's pre-colonial cultural traditions and the socio-political histories of its colonial and contemporary traditions. Before we are colonized by the Spaniards, Americans, and Japanese, we have our own literature, and it was called pre-colonial literature. It is a literature that is formed or produced during pre-colonial era, and pre-colonial literature focused on the oral literature. Okay, what are the texts considered pre-colonial literature? Number 1 characteristic is the pre-colonial literature includes all literature produced before the Spanish colonization, like chants, proverbs, songs, and folk narratives. So folk narratives are varied and distinct. They depict the people's livelihood, customs, and traditions. Another characteristic is the literature of a formative past by the various groups of people who inhabited the archipelago. Next, close to the religious and political organizations of the Asian Filipinos. And lastly, verses composed and sung were regarded as a group property. So if you are looking for a text that are involved in pre-colonial literature, you should know these characteristics so that you will be able to understand what kind of literature it is. Since we are talking about pre-colonial literature and it is an oral literature that is intended to speak and to sing, here are the examples of written texts and written works inside pre-colonial era. We have riddles, proverbs, myths, legends, epics, folktales, and folk songs. So let us look each one of those. Riddles or bugtong. Riddles are made up of one or more measured lines with rhymes and may consist of 4 to 12 syllables. It showcased the Filipino wit, literary talent, and keen observation of the surroundings. It involves reference to 1 or 2 images that symbolize the characteristics of an unknown object that is to be guessed. For example, mahaba ang bituka at ito'y lumilipad. Kapag hindi mahangin, ito'y tinatamad. The entrails are long and they're able to fly, but then becomes lazy when no wind goes by. Another example, may dila ngunit ayaw namang magsalita. Kambal sila't laging kasamang isa't isa. Itali o igapos kahit higpitan mo pa, tiyak silang sa iyo ay sasama. They don't have tongues but don't have speech. Always together, identical to each. Tie them up, bind them right. They'll still be faithful and leave you not. Those are the examples of riddles. And now let's talk about proverbs. So what is proverbs? Proverbs are what we call epigrams or maxims. These are wise sayings that contain a metaphor used to teach us food for thought, often expressing a single idea that imparts lessons for the young. short poems that have been customarily been used and served as laws or rules on good behavior by our ancestors. It often expressing a single idea that is usually satirical and had a witty endings. So maxims are rhyming couplets that includes 5, 6, and 8 syllables. Here the example of sayings or salawikain. Ang matapat na kaibigan tunay na maaasahan. You will know a true friend in time of need. Pag may tiyaga, may nilaga. If you persevere, you will reap the fruits of your labor. Another example, kumukulo ang dugo. Blood is boiling, meaning he or she is very angry. Isulat sa tubig. Write on water, meaning forget about it. Those are the examples of Proverbs. Other written works or written text inside pre-colonial era, or what we call oral literature, is myths. Myths are traditional stories occurring in a timeless past. They involve supernatural elements and are beyond the frontiers of logic. Myths are not based on objective truth. They reflect both universal worries and the worries of a specific culture. It also has a narrative that describes and portrays in symbolic language the origin of the basic elements and assumptions of a culture. For example, the gods and goddesses of Ilocos. Why there is a high tide during a full moon? By Ibanag. Why the dead come back no more? By Ifugao. And how the moon and the stars came to be? By Bukidnon. Another written works inside pre-colonial literature is what we call legends. A legend differs from a myth by portraying a human hero rather than one who is a god. Legends, originally oral, have been developed into literary masterpieces. Legends are stories about real people who are famous for doing something brave or extraordinary. Here are the examples. The Legend of the Sleeping Beauty in Kalinga, Legend of the Dama de Noche, Legend of the Banana Plant, and Legend of the Firefly. Inside pre-colonial literature, this is what we call epics. Epics are narrative poem, celebrates the adventures and achievements of a hero. These narratives sustained length based on oral tradition revolving around supernatural. Here are the examples of epics. Biyag ni Lamang from Ilocos and Hudhud ni Aligayon from Ifugao. Inside pre-colonial era, they produced folktales. Folktales are characteristically anonymous, timeless, and placeless tales circulated orally among a people. For example, One Gathers Guabas. It is a Tagalog folktale that talks about one tamad. And last but not the least, since we are talking about oral literature that is intended to sing and to speak, they produce a folk songs. A folk song is a form of folk lyric which expresses the people's hopes, aspirations, and lifestyles. These are traditional songs and melodies inspired by the reaction or creation of a people to their environment. Folk songs are one of the oldest forms of Philippine literature. For example, Uyayi, or what we call lullaby, Kumintang, or it is intended for war song, Kundiman, a melancholic love song, Harana, or what we call serenade, Tagay, or intended for drinking song, Mambayu is for kalinga and a pounding song, Subli, dance ritual song for courtship or marriage, and Tagulaylay, songs of the dead. So here are the examples of folk songs that contributed a lot on a pre-colonial literature. So in this lesson, you learn about what is pre-colonial literature and what is oral literature, what are the texts considered pre-colonial literature, and those examples of written works and written texts inside pre-colonial literature. So that's it, guys. Thank you for listening and thank you for your time. I hope you learned a lot for this topic and this lesson. Please subscribe, like, and share my videos. Thank you and goodbye.